Where's welcome to the Damu Kiwe conversations. Y'all hit that like button. We got the content. I hope everybody ain't over there watching the damn premiere because this is the live. You know what I'm saying? The premiere just came out. We on the live. So somebody please go over there. Let them know that we're over here and we're going to get into the content. Matter of fact, I opened up early. We're gonna get it. We're gonna y'all get active in the chat. It's Duse M's the done, and we got the content. Oh my God, Renegade Duchess. Condolences to your family. Lost my dad 30 minutes ago. I won't be active tonight. I'm going through it. Pray for me. Prayers to you, Stuff a lot, sister. You did mention that your father was a Muslim. La ilaha illallah, Muhammadan Rasulullah. All from Allah will return to Allah. Allah is the best of knowers, the all-knowing, the all-wise, the most merciful, most beneficent. Yes, condolences to you and your father. We're gonna keep you and you and your family in our prayers. Papa Dirt, salute, bro. What up? Mike B, that started us off kind of like, damn, that energy really sapped a lot out of me, man. We with you though, sis. You know what I'm saying? Raider Q, what up? Najay Low, what up? Hit that like button. Oh, I didn't even hit the IG. Let me get on IG and make sure YouTube and Twitch, they know to go ahead and go at Active Chucks. You know what I'm saying? Y'all go ahead and hit that pin. What you call it? When you come over, get active in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Look, we finna start this content right now because I got to use the restroom. I started early because I wanted to get into this, and I didn't want everybody to go to that premiere that was supposed to premiere an hour ago. And it was man, the whole time they was not allowing me to was not allowing it to go out, but it's out now. So I hope that y'all pay attention to this. I'll be right back. Gotta use the restroom.
In and of itself was very strange.
Active in the chat.
There was this is back in '97, March of '97. A narcotics detective named Frank Liga, who I had met. I didn't really know him well at all, but I had met him.
Okay,
he was had a lot of expertise, if I'm remembering, in PCP cases and working, South LA PCP cases. He was like an encyclopedia of knowledge and understood the cooking process or the lab process of PCP manufacturing as well. He was working that day in his city car and gotten some kind of, they were doing a surveillance and the surveillance broke off or something happened, and he, at a traffic light or something, Sean, and I know you know the details of this, correct me if I'm wrong, but he encounters Gaines. Is it Kevin Gaines or David? Kevin Gaines.
Kevin Gaines.
He encounters Kevin Gaines driving a Mitsubishi Montero, a green Mitsubishi Montero, and there is some, visual altercation between the two of them. I don't know if they give each other dirty looks. I think I read some accounts that there were gang signs flashed, like Gaines flashed some gang signs at Liga, and they had words, and it evolved into, I guess, what was called at the time some kind of road rage incident. And at one point they pulled over together, but Liga drove off. Now, Liga was in his, quote, police car, an unmarked car, and they have foot microphones in those cars, LAPD. So he's hitting the foot microphone. He's reporting to his surveillance team what's going on. He's saying, hey, I'm going to need some help over here. I have a guy brandishing a gun, et cetera, et cetera. The situation devolves into a shooting where Gaines pulls a gun. Liga sees the gun and shoots Gaines. Gaines manages to pull into like a convenience store, but dies in the parking lot, right? Dies in the parking lot. And then, minutes later, they discover he's actually an LAPD officer. So this is one LAPD detective killing another LAPD officer. And of course, this case was, evening news in LA right away. Sean, first with you, like when you heard about this, what were the first thoughts
I mean, this case actually made national news. It was insane. You know, after this incident, I worked with Frank Liga on quite a few cases. Liga was, as you say, an outstanding narcotics detective with encyclopedic knowledge of PCP and other drug operations in LA. This case had racial overtones from the very beginning because Liga is a white police officer working undercover. You know, Liga had a long ponytail, a Fu Manchu,
The cowboy
kind
hat,
of,
always wore a cowboy
mustache.
hat.
Yeah, this time he had a hat with a marijuana leaf on it because he's working undercover, right? You know, he's basically dressed up, you know, as a street hood himself. He runs into this guy in this green Mitsubishi Montero, which also happened to be the color of choice for a number of blood gangsters. Turns out that's why he was driving it. Kevin Gaines, he doesn't know that Gaines is an LAPD officer. Gaines starts mad dogging him. Liga says something to him. Gaines starts mouthing off, saying, "I'm going to cap you. Let's pull over and settle this." So Liga, very carefully, as you said, very craftily, says, "Go ahead." And when Gaines pulls over, he takes off into traffic. Well, Liga does. Gaines goes ballistic, chases after Liga, which is why Liga's calling out to his team to get back up. And when Gaines catches up to him, Liga's already pulled his gun because the guy's threatened to cap him. Gaines again says, "I'm going to cap you," pulls his gun, and Liga shoots him. First bullet missed, went through the door. Second bullet hit Kevin Gaines in the torso, went through his heart and lodged in his lung. Gaines, basically, his car pulls a U-turn and, as you say, comes to rest against the wall of this convenience store. Fascinatingly, there's two CHP officers who happen to be around the other side of the convenience store, which I'm sure Mark can add some context to. And they find the gun, by the way, that Gaines had pulled on Liga in the floor of that car, which was a really important fact because now you had an independent agency to give some corroboration to what Liga was saying.
Right. Mark, did you have any info on that back when it happened, like with those CHP guys? No.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Sean, you know, nailed it.
I'm live
Shot
right now. I
surprising
got a
details
computer
are just,
right now, and
just
I'm
as I
live.
remember them, including the shot into his torso.
Yeah.
But I was about a mile away at one of my favorite restaurants. This is going to sound really, really poor for the Highway Patrol.
Well, check me out.
On a break at the time when this happened.
Once, okay?
Myself and the other two officers.
Okay, brother.
The other two CHP officers were actually working in the Duane area. At the time, I was working the Altadena CHP area office of patrol. Adjoining that, we call it the triangle right there. There are three areas that come together: Altadena, Central Los Angeles, where Chips was filmed, and then West Valley, which is headquartered out in the San Fernando Valley, and all come together right there. Well, there's a little convenience store there. It was an AM/PM, and if you ever drove down Cahuenga Boulevard, it's right next to Universal Studios.
Indiana,
at the intersection of Cahuenga and Regal. So when the CHP would take a break there or something like that, or they may be making an arrest in that parking lot, they would just tell dispatch, "Hey, Regal." Everyone knew what Regal was. Everybody knew. So as I said, I was on my departmentally allotted coffee break, having my first lunch of the day, and these two CHP officers put out an 1199, which is the highest call for assistance you can. And it was only two times in all my patrol time in about 15 years I heard 1199. That's how rare it is. So I dropped my chopsticks literally, and I hopped my Mustang. I go flying code 3 about 100 miles an hour down the street. And as I pull up to Regal, I see the scene as Sean very, very well laid it out. Gaines is actually out on the pavement at that point. He's handcuffed, and so is Liga. They're both handcuffed. The CHP officers did not know.
Somebody go to the premiere and tell them that we over here on the live stream.
By the time I pulled up, at that time they were figuring out that at least Liga was an LAPD officer. We had LAPD pulling up there. They were able to identify him. But, you know, that was my nexus. So I pulled up. I was kind of a looky-loo. I was out of there pretty quick once I logged in, you know, walking the crime scene, and that was about it, and I was gone. But as we're going to get into, that's what really broke this, you know, this scandal. And I found out pretty soon about whose car was being driven. And this is what really takes us even going back to the Peterson Auto Museum murder.
Let's go.
It all ties in very, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, bizarrely, when the police start investigating this case, Russell Poole, who we'll talk about, was one of the detectives that investigated this. You know, this case took on a lot of division within LAPD. Actually, it was very controversial. There's lots of rumors flying around. They start digging into it. They find video from the AM/PM that actually corroborates Liga's account of what happened. They start looking into Gaines. It turns out he's driving the car of Suge Knight's estranged wife, Sharitha Knight, which is bizarre. And then it turns out he's actually living with Sharitha Knight in her mansion up in the hills because he was having a relationship with her. Kevin Gaines had styled himself essentially as a blood gang member, and he had worked for, at least as Russell Poole reports it, worked for the Death Row Records security division. I think it was Wright Security. And him and several other police officers were frequent guests at parties of Suge's, including Kevin Gaines' good friend, Rafael Perez, Ray Perez, who's the center of the Rampart scandal, and another officer.
So what they saying is that Kevin Gaines' close friend, Kevin Gaines, who was fucking Sharitha Knight, staying with her, Suge Knight's wife, was Rafael Perez and David Mack. This is nasty work. Cole Rampart connection. Let's go.
David Mack, who we'll also talk about. They are all hanging out with Suge Knight, a part of a group of police officers that appear to be possibly providing security at events for Suge Knight, and have deep connections to Death Row.
Yeah, and I think, Sean, also, by all accounts, they were all living beyond their means. You know, I mean, that's kind of a generic statement, but I think when Gaines was found, he had a receipt either on his person or in the car. It was like a $950 receipt from Monty's Restaurant, which was at that time a steakhouse, a pretty well-known blood hangout steakhouse in LA.
That's right.
You know, dropping $950 on dinner, that's pricey. So
he had 9 credit cards with massive credit limits in his wallet at the time. Right. He was living high off the Death Row bill.
Right, and I think that opened or it caused a lot of people to question what was going on. Right, that, you know, how are these people working security? Where's this money coming from? And like I said, kind of the first glimpse that there's something strange going on with some of these officers. What else about that shooting? I mean, Liga was eventually cleared. I think there were 3 different LAPD investigations. And Sean, you talked about Russell Poole investigating it. Anytime there's a police use of force that results in a death, like a shooting, there is a robbery homicide investigator that's going to look at it, especially a case like this. You know, robbery homicide is their headquarters homicide investigators, extremely skilled and competent investigators. And really, he was cleared by all 3 different investigations, to my knowledge, right?
Yeah, that's right. Robbery homicide investigated this. Russell Poole was with robbery homicide at the time. I've had the great fortune of working with robbery homicide several times in my career. They are some of the best detectives in the country. They are definitely elite detectives. They looked at this because it's an officer-involved shooting, and especially the victim was an officer also. Gaines went through. I'm sorry, not Gaines, but Liga went through 2 board of rights on this case. The board of rights is a hearing that LAPD has for discipline internally, and it's an administrative hearing where they determine whether or not they're going to fire or impose other discipline on the officer. It's a fairly formal proceeding. There's at the time, it was 3 police officers who would judge. Now there's civilians on the panel. And after the first one cleared Liga, at the time, Chief of Police was Bernie Parks, who had formerly been head of the Internal Affairs Division. He actually ordered a second board of rights. And Liga was cleared by the second board of rights. I think part of the reason why this was done like that is because of the tensions in the department between black officers and white officers, and the nationwide news coverage that this got about a white officer who rumors were flying around because of allegations by Johnny Cochran, who was suing the department, that Liga was some kind of a white supremacist and other things. And so they really dug into this hard, and Liga was cleared. The third inquiry was by my office, who reviewed it for criminal filing, and also found that the shooting appeared to be in reasonable self-defense, and cleared Liga as well, or at least did not file any charges.
Hey, listen, man. This is how you hit that like button if y'all just getting up in here, man. This is how we starting it off. We got the Mountaineers talking about the corruption with death row and these crooked police. You know what I'm saying? You got the Mountaineers active in the chat. The chat's where it's at, talking about it. So let's go to episode 1, The Killer Cop of California. I wonder who fits that. Oh, I know. The Killer Cop of California. Veggie Wrong. Shout out Scandalous Los Angeles.
Welcome back to Scandalous Los Angeles TV, where we expose the exposers. Today, we have a special treat in store for you guys, because no longer can we allow these 137 informants to have an uninterrupted rule of running the narrative. Today, we're going to be taking a look at CS2 Back's godfather, the pork loin leader, Reggie Wright Jr. Not only is Reggie one of the most narcissistic and egotistical men we know.
Once you start with me, it ain't gonna be no letting up until you bow down. You will bow down and kiss the ring with Reggie Wright.
Keefe D, leave Reggie Wright alone. You shouldn't make jokes about Reggie Wright. Why do most other niggas don't make jokes and fuck with Reggie Wright? They hear this stuff. They hear Reggie talking. Reggie been talking for 3 or 4 years. Everything I do get views. Not crazy views, but views. So niggas hear about the things that Reggie's saying. But you the only nigga want to clown Reggie. But okay. Keep it up, Keith. Davis.
But just tell that nigga to go suck on his mama's dick. His mama's dick. If that ain't fighting enough words for you, then punk that nigga. If that don't make you supposed to be such a gangster, then come out and play, nigga. Yo mama is a fucking dyke ass she-male, nigga. Yeah, if you don't like that, if you so tough, nigga, I'm talking about your mama, the bitch that birthed you, nigga. Now let's see if you come out and play with that, you bitch ass nigga. Just like I'm talking shit on the internet, anybody can do that bitch ass shit. So, nigga, I go with things that make a nigga want to come and play, nigga. Suck your mama's dick, nigga. I know you hear it. Now that's how you come and play, nigga. You let a nigga talk about a nigga mama. Your mama is a fucking dyke, bitch ass, dick sucking male. So you so bad, nigga. Let's play. I like to play. So that's all I got to say. But nigga, talk about my mama like that, nigga. I'll come and play with your bitch ass then, nigga. That's what I just did. Yo mama, nigga. Fuck yo mama and her bitch ass. Nigga, that don't get you off the play, nothing will.
Keep telling y'all, I fucks with everybody. Police, politicians, music executives, and gang members.
Due to this fact, Reggie feels like he is untouchable. Reggie knows that most gang members won't go to the police and tell on him because if they did, they'll be labeled as a rat. At the same time, Reggie is well aware that those same gang members that won't tell on him also won't shoot at him because he's the police. So we're sitting in a situation where a police officer and federal informant has been allowed to gun down young black men, some of the most intelligent and influential black men at that, and place those murders on some other innocent black men.
That's a fact.
Reggie can't be retaliated against because, again, he's a cop that's being protected. And you can't tell, because then you'd be a
Get
rat.
them likes up.
So we're trapped in a lose-lose situation where we're forced to hear these informants run around calling people rats and snitches. Reggie is a race traitor who sold his people out years ago, and everybody that comes riding in with him are all working against the better good of our people. Reggie was given his first shot into the music industry by former Death Row Records CEO, Marion Knight. Suge was instructed by Jimmy Iovine to get security for his death row office and artists. But Jimmy insisted that he hire real police officers.
A very funny story is that I insisted that they get real security, real cops. Okay,
Not the hood cops.
I said, no. This is what happened. I insisted they get real police because I didn't want to. I said, I just can't do this anymore. You know, it's just crazy. I come to the studio and there's all these guys, and it doesn't feel like, you know. So next time I go, there's real police, right? Way after it ends, I found out they were Rampart guys.
He told them to get police. Next time he comes to death row, they got police, and he finds out that they were Rampart guys. Oh, so y'all did know that they were Rampart guys. Let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea. How am I supposed to know? I had no idea. How am I supposed to know? You know.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not saying I'm innocent or guilty. I'm just saying that it happened.
At the exact same time that Jimmy was instructing Marion to get real police officers, a real police officer contacted Marion. This police officer's name was Reggie Wright Sr.
And Suge is now heavily involved in it. Now, you met up with Suge at one point and said that some Mob Piru guys were going to like kidnap him or rob him or something?
Well, I had gotten some information, you know, that some of the mob guys that he was, you know, trying to hire or work with him in death row were going to eventually kidnap him and rob him. So I had gotten that information, and by, you know, knowing the guy, you know, knowing he wasn't no hard guy, I wanted him to be aware so he can watch his back. And I did meet up with him to more or less say, you need to watch who your guys are around you, because, you know, if they don't feel as though they gonna get enough money out of you, so they gonna rob you. That's what the word is. And that's when we met and we discussed that. And he took heed to it.
Okay.
He took heed because he offered me to be a security. And that's when I told him, half the guys that you run around with, I'm working cases on them. You know.
Okay.
That's how that went.
And is that when your son, Reggie Wright Jr., kind of stepped in and filled that role?
Eventually, you know, he got with Suge because, you know, he grew up with Suge and stuff. And Reggie had started his business, security business, because he had retired from the police department because of injury, and he was setting up his security business. And then he and Suge finally talked, and then Suge hired him, you know, as a security, and it went from there.
Marion would later find out that hiring his childhood friend Reggie was the worst decision that he's made since he created Death Row Records. Before we get started, I want you guys to listen to what Reggie's protege CS2 back had to say yesterday.
He was going to the police academy. You don't think that all
Nothing
that
wrong
shit
with
was
the
50?
police academy, bro. What's wrong with the police?
He's supposed to be a rolling 60, and he going to the police academy.
I got homies that Paul rules the police, bro.
But he a part of the exposers.
Okay, well, what's wrong with being going to the police academy? I got homies. You
That
know that
ain't
clip they
street
got.
shit.
You know that clip they got. That clip they got with me talking to the sheriff in the hallway when Blueface being turned in. That's my homeboy.
Is he a part of the
room over there,
exposers?
that room over there called the. If it wasn't for him, the Beehive wouldn't exist. He was the homie that was pumping all the blood to 826 Supermax and Wayside. Right? He was the one. He from the set. Right? So, you know, that's my homeboy. I got like 3 homies that's sheriffs and shit that work in the correctional facility. My nigga, like, y'all stay. What's crazy is y'all watch all these gangster movies and then y'all cut out the shit that y'all act like can't happen. The Mexicans been doing it. They got a whole motherfucking gang, nigga. Them Southsiders, nigga, they bump us up, take our guns, don't take us to jail. And what do you think they drop them off? Take them over there to the barrio.
One of the worst things you can be is a crooked cop. Cause
I
that
mean,
nigga gonna turn on you as soon as he get a chance.
I mean,
You the only nigga gonna go down for it.
Hey brother, let me explain something to you. These dudes we've been knowing 4, 5 years old. We grew up together, bro. We all know each other's families, all that shit. Guess what? When I used to do these clubs and parties out here, you know what our niggas say? Why your shit don't get shut down? Because when the police pull up, they're met by off-duty police. They going, how y'all doing? They flash their badge. Y'all working? Yeah, we off-duty. Everything cool around here. All them niggas is gang members. And if they wasn't there, I'd have my homies in front. So when the police pulled up, they would have started scattering. They've been a run, and then the shit shut down, and they go to jail. So I don't know how you playing it, but I'm gonna play it how I play it.
Yo, we been through that shit here in Baltimore. I know you seen it all over the TV. We had a gun task force that we grew up with, niggas that we knew.
I don't know nothing about that. I know I
okay,
got
that's what I'm
homies,
telling you.
and
As
I'm
soon as shit popped
influencing
off,
my
they threw
nephews
all the niggas under the
and they
bus, and the cops was
nephews
good.
to go to the police academy and the military. Because
But be a
guess what?
straight cop. Yeah, as long as you're a
can-
straight cop, but
they
don't
can
be a
check
crooked
that.
cop and think you get respect from the streets.
I don't know what you mean by cricket. Only thing I know is
Reggie Wright
this
crooked.
nigga got life. Reggie Wright was never crooked. Why you call him crooked? Reggie Wright was never a crooked
Did
cop.
that nigga go to jail?
Yeah, but he got not
That's a
been a
crooked
cop for
cop.
15 years. He had, Reggie Wright went to jail 20 years after not being a cop. The nigga retired in what, 94?
He was under investigation when he was a cop.
Bro, Reggie retired in 94.
Right, he retired.
Reggie did not retire in 1994. He retired in 1996. So yes, Reggie was an active police officer and an FBI informant while working for Death Row Records. But I want you to keep listening to CS2 back, because he condones everything that you're about to see. Listen to the way he makes excuses for informants.
Because they was about to indict his ass.
He retired because he went to fucking Death Row. Nigga, they would have indicted him. Just because you retired don't stop you from getting indicted. He went to Death Row 4 times. He retired.
You know how I work with the police, though. They let it go as long as you retire.
No, I'm just correcting you, bro, because you said he was a crooked cop. He retired in 94. Should paid the nigga 3 times his salary. A bunch of niggas would have retired, right? Paid him 3 times his salary. Retired in 94. He went to the feds and he caught a case in 16, 17? He what, bro? That's how many years is that, bro? 20-something years of not being a cop? What you mean? A crooked cop is a nigga that's a cop and he doing some crooked shit.
Right.
Nigga been retired 20-something years. You can't say, oh, you's a crooked cop. The nigga ain't a cop. Ain't been a
Yo, I
cop.
seen a documentary on this nigga. He was under investigation before he retired.
Okay,
That
now let
means
me ask
he
you
was
a question. Let me ask you a question, brother. The documentary, was it the DA's office or was it just a nigga talking?
Was it the what? Say it again.
Was it the district attorney's office or was it just a nigga talking? The documentary you say.
It was cops talking. Some of it was cops. Some of it was street niggas. They was telling their story.
Hold on. What cops was talking, bro?
I don't know every individual
Was
cop,
it the
but for
district
example,
attorney? Listen,
it was an FBI. Just recently, that he was on the phone with an FBI agent, and he was saying how Reggie was an informant for him.
Well, I'm gonna be real. Like Reggie could be an informant, nigga. Like fucking ex.
Yeah,
Reggie ain't a
like,
gang
hold
member.
on, yo. You just told me it was 20 years before he was charged, and that's
He
supposed to
was,
mean
but
something.
you said he was a
now you
crooked
saying
cop.
it's okay
You said
for him to be an informant.
Bro, you just said crooked cop. We addressed that. He hadn't been a cop 20-some years when he caught a weed
And I
case.
told you he was
Now
under
you're
investigation before he retired.
Now you're saying informant, right? Now I don't know what the fuck Reggie did inform on. I've never heard anybody say Reggie's right on my paperwork.
You know, I lost everything that I owned, my home, all of my personal belongings are gone. I'm destitute. I have nothing. No home, nothing. No car. I have nothing. And when people have the capacity and the ability to reach out and take you from your family and strip you from your dignity and take everything from you but your God. These are very powerful people. These are very powerful people. These are very powerful people, and I'm afraid of them. I don't fear them, but I'm afraid of what they'll do if I talk too much.
How did that prison,
like
stay? How did it affect you physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, as being a man of your stature, coming from where you came from, knowing what you know? How did it affect you in those areas?
Well, I lost everything. Lost my house, lost my cars, lost my jobs, and I've never regained it. But if you ask me, do I feel good about the decision I made? I do. Because let me tell y'all something. Ain't nothing worse than a dirty cop.
No
doubt. And he's you think a snitch is low. You got a cat parading around in your neighborhood. He in a car you paying for, burning up gas your mom and daddy buying, rolling around, throwing you up against the hood. But guess what? When he get done, he going to cop or he going to blow. Feel me? He in the same game you in. Right. You go to the pen, he get a medal. But he getting paid. Right. And everybody know who I'm talking about. I ain't got to say no names. Right. They finally busted the people that I was talking about.
Retired LA County Sheriff's Lieutenant and his son, a one-time cop with the Compton Police Department, have been indicted on federal drug trafficking and money laundering charges. Prosecutors say Reggie Wright Sr. and his son, Reggie Wright Jr., are both members of the Grape Street Crips gang.
I love how you niggas will think I'm just a big old fat nigga walking around wearing a G-string or some shit. Y'all really knew me. I didn't need to protect from niggas. I was institutionalized a motherfucker. If I felt threatened by anybody, if you want to know the real, nigga would have went to jail for a long time fucking with me. Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say that. Never.
You need to listen to when this FBI
No.
agent
Show me the work.
Reggie shut up himself. The niggas like, you better leave this alone, Reggie.
Bro,
you better leave this. And Reggie
show
like, all right,
me, bro.
okay,
Listen. Show me the work. Reggie loud as a motherfucker, bro. Somebody had work with Reggie's name on it as the one informed on him.
No,
right? It was 8 niggas on this case he went to the feds on.
Reggie said himself he gonna go to jail on that nigga. What's his name? The nigga they think killed Pop. Reggie said he gonna go tell on him.
Tell what?
He said he'll go to court.
Okay. Bro, so do you think Reggie's a gangster? Bro.
Is he an informant?
Reggie's not a gangster, bro.
I wanted you guys to hear that, because CS2 Back is now giving the green light for everyone out there to go be an informant. As long as you're not saying you're a gangster. So if you let Porky tell it, the 2 informants that you see on the screen did nothing wrong, since they didn't claim to be gangsters. This is what these guys are promoting, directly in our faces.
Where have you ever seen Reggie say he was a gangster? He's a retired Compton PD that was a death row exec. He's not a gangster, bro. He's not a Crip, a Blood.
I let you guys hear that, because I wanted you guys to see and hear Porky defend Reggie for working with the FBI to lock up the mayor. Porky defends his founder in this way, because he is an informant too. But this is about his boss, though. So let's start by looking at some of the underhanded shit that Reggie does. So a few weeks ago, Reggie went on the Bloody Bunch clubhouse room and admitted that he was the one uploading pictures on Marion Knight's Twitter account.
They made that. Reggie, you have information that only you. Reggie, do you run that Twitter though? Do you run that shit like Twitter?
Not currently, but I had authority to do it.
Oh, so you did run it?
Yeah. But he
has a lot of content. Hold on, let's get back to the first question Garden Kings asked you about while Wack and Suge went at it. Wack has content all over the internet going crazy on Wack about something on Twitter when you was in control of it. But I'm going back on you.
Yeah. But that ain't what started their beef. They were already going at it.
So you agreeing that you did post that to turn it up?
No. Not to turn it up. Only thing was put on there
for content.
Yeah.
Hold on. Only thing was put up there, and that was funny.
Wait a minute, hold on. Put on there. Only thing that was put up there about wet was him acting like he was cleaning the table at in Adam 22. That was the only thing that was ever put on that Twitter about wet.
I'm one of the pictures he posted. Had Marion Knight, Tupac, and Trey Lane from Mob Piru. In the caption, Reggie writes that this little guy is responsible for Tupac's demise. Now Reggie posted this to poke at Trey, and to make people think that Suge was blaming Trey for Pac's death. Reggie was trying to show Trey that he could make people begin to blame him for the murder. Listen to what Reggie says to Trey right here.
And there's a person out there lately. And I'm going to tap at him because I got to remind motherfuckers. Everybody think just because I was a cop, I didn't grow up in the Imperial Courts housing projects. I didn't walk the same payments as their relatives did, and then they did later on in their adult life. I walked the same pavements that all of those niggas from Luders Park, East Side, Ma Paru, and played baseball over there in Kelly Park and Ed Hood and all of those neighborhoods. I even went on the Wilson Park side, the west side, and played at Gonzales Park. But it's a nigga that want to play with me, and I'm going to send him a little warning. Matter of fact, I'm going to show the picture. Now, remember I told y'all that all of this Death Row, Southside, Ma Paru bullshit, a lot of people lost their lives. I'm not going to say Tupac. I'm not like Suge, what's been putting up on his Twitter. I'm not like Suge, what's been putting up on his Twitter. I'm not like Suge, what's been putting up on his Twitter.
Do you guys see what he's doing? He's the one responsible for posting the picture on Suge's Twitter. Then he gets on his show and says he's not like Suge, to blame Trey for Tupac's murder and post it on Twitter. I hope you guys can see what this informant just did.
I'm not going to say that because it make it seem like he was involved with the murder. He wasn't involved with the murder.
So Reggie just let you know that he knew exactly what he was doing when he made that post. He said it makes it look like he was involved with the murder. Then he said, nah, he wasn't involved with the murder. So he tapped at Trey with the post. Then he comes on his show to act like he's clearing him of Suge's accusations. This is a cold bastard right here, and all of us are just sitting back watching him do it. But I want you guys to listen to what Reggie says to Trey, because this is going to show you just how narcissistic Reggie is, and how untouchable he feels that he is.
He just did some scary ass shit to make niggas have to respond at a location where they didn't need to be responding at. Stories gonna start being told. You keep texting my co-workers with your bullshit when you drunk, high off of ecstasies or something, and then want to wake up in the morning, oh, your little homie just tripping. He just, no, nigga. Don't tap at me and then try to backtrack it with the ha ha ha. Nigga, fuck you. I don't play those games, nigga. You know that. Nigga. Just because you over there now thinking you got niggas from the hood, those little youngsters don't know the pedigree. They don't know where you really from. Long Beach Crip. They don't know all of that. They don't know how you've been saved, nigga. How niggas saved you in county jail and shit. Stories going to be told. Stop playing with Reggie motherfucking Wright, nigga. It's going to be some stories. I'm going to get y'all that interview y'all been wanting. Because trust me, he going to be calling Vlad or John or somebody offering to do the interview for free. Nigga, say one more word. Mention my name one more time to people that I work with. Meaning John. Fuck it, I ain't going to sugarcoat it. Stop texting John with your bullshit, nigga. You got my number. You know how to get my number. You know how to get a hold of me. Please, stop playing with me. I know too much about you guys that walk around now with your chest all poked out, running to Cleveland, Ohio and stuff, thinking you the man, and you this and you that. Nigga, I'll tell stories. I have niggas come on when they just said, who's in St. Louis? Who got what? Where that nigga at? Tell him come here. I'm gonna take that. Man. So why do you niggas be playing with Reggie at this day? Y'all know. I can see whole ass niggas in the comment sections on YouTube, but niggas that know. Oh man. Don't make me have to play with you. That's just the tap that the principal used to give you with the ruler. Cause nigga, I'm gonna spank your ass. Say another word. I promise you. I want you to. Let's play. Let's have fun. Let's have a 2024 great year, Negro. Cause I play both sides. Both sides. You know that. We can play it on social media.
Both sides.
Nigga, please. Okay.
Both sides.
Either way.
You know that. I play both sides. Both sides. You know that. He wants to make sure that there's no misunderstanding. Yeah, it sounds weird how he say, nigga. Let me see what y'all saying. We almost finished. Let me play this out. I think we got about 2 minutes left.
Because you ain't going to be able to say, oh, it jammed. It jammed when I was getting out of the trash can. I was in the trash can and it. You ain't going to be able to say that with me, nigga. They're going to be saying, oh. R.I.P., R.I.P., R.I.P. That's what they're going to be saying. You come fucking with Reggie, R.I.P., fucking with Reggie, R.I.P., fucking with Reggie, R.I.P. No threats, promises, bro. No threats. I'm tired of playing with you. I've been playing with you, reading your texts last 2 or 3 days when you get drunk, going in and out. Got your sister calling my wife, telling why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Talking about brother-in-law. Calling, man, nigga, stop playing with me. Stop it, little boy. Sorry, John. Hate to use this to tap at one person on our platform. But tired of bitch ass niggas, man. And he ain't a bitch. It's somebody I actually liked. Asked him several times. Asked him. Respond back with texts like, all right, man, all right. It's all good. I was punking out. What? Then he get drunk? Start rambling again. Stop doing that, dog. Don't know what you own. Ain't never known you to be on shit like that. Stop doing that. Yeah. Don't let your little status over there today clog your memory. Niggas' hands fucked up. Never use my hands. Never use my hands.
I'm the orca.
I'm an orca. Never mind. I'm an orca. Never mind. I'm an orca. Never mind.
All right, safe flight.
Enough said.
So Reggie just said his hands were messed up, but it didn't matter because he never used his hands. Then he went on to say he was a orca, but he stopped himself before finishing the word. What do you guys think he was gonna say? He was an orca, what? Somebody asked Reggie what word was he gonna say, and why did he cut it short? These guys are killer rats. Stay tuned for part 2. We're really gonna tear his ass off the bone then.
We're really gonna tear his ass off the bone then. So look, we're gonna get to the grand jury, the killer rat. We're gonna get to the grand jury, the orchestrator, the orca, nigga, the orca. So we finna get into this content. I think this is it. Yeah, this is the premiere.
Let's get this here. We're gonna break this down.
Where's
In the chat, if you're just coming in, hit that like button.
Damu Kiwe
Let's wake this up.
conversation. Voice of the West Coast, voice of the culture. It's Duse M's the dime. This is part 3 of the Reggie Wright Jr. grand jury testimony. It's the transcripts
Work well.
of the Tupac murder trial, charging Keefe D, Duane Keefe D Davis. You hit that like button on your way in. If you ain't already did it, subscribe to the channel if you ain't done that. And take your shoes off at the front door, man. Take them chucks off at the front door. We're going to get right into the content, man. We ain't going to even play no game. Let's go. So where we left off was it was only time that the club ever opened during Mr. Knight's reigns. Question: was it your understanding the hope was if this night went successfully, you guys would get proper certification and be allowed to open the club more and do more business at Club 662? Answer: you put it in the correct words, but yes, sir. Question: okay, now, were you given any instructions as to whether or not you all were allowed to have firearms at the club or in the city while you're trying to get this business deal down? Answer: so either myself or Mr. Khaleesi's in the meeting that I had with all of my security, who were mainly off-duty or retired police officers, and I informed them, or Mr. Khaleesi's, I forgot who it was, but I know I echoed it if I wasn't the one that said it. Ban them from having their firearms on them inside of the nightclub. Told them we didn't want that. We didn't want that night. Didn't want to see any guns. If they had a problem with it, don't come to work. Question: all right. Now I'm going to focus on your attention to the day of the Tyson-Selden fight. So we were on Friday. We're on Friday. Now we're moving on to Saturday, the day of the fight. Okay. Question: do you recall where you were staying? Answer: at the Luxor Hotel. Question: and was that where everybody else associated with death row was going to be staying? Answer: the staff, the working staff, and the artists. But Mr. Knight and about 3 of his friends, Mr. Knight had just purchased a home out here maybe 4 months prior. And, he had got a lot of renovation done to it. And as a matter of fact, we were having the next day a big family reunion. Well, meaning Sunday. We were planning to have he had a lot of his family members out, to go to the club, of course. And we were going to have a big family reunion. He was giving a big party because he wanted to show off his house. But they were at that house. Maybe about 4 of the people were going to be at the house. Question: so, but the artists like Shakur, the Outlaws, other artists that were coming out, they were staying at the Luxor? Answer: and even myself, I had a room at the Luxor. You were at the Luxor as well? Answer: yes. And question: and so other staff and security, they were staying at the Luxor as well? Answer: yes, sir. Question: okay. What time do you recall the Tyson fight was supposed to start? Answer: generally 7:30 to 8 o'clock. Question: is when you would want to be over there? Question: yeah, would want to be there. Yes, sir. Question: and when did Mr. Shakur and Mr. Knight arrive, if you know? Answer: well, question: at the Luxor? I'm sorry, at the Luxor. Answer: oh, from driving from LA? Question: yeah. Answer: okay, about 3-ish, 4 p.m. that day. Yes, sir. Question: and did you see them when they arrived? Answer: I seen Mr. Shakur for sure. I think Mr. Knight just came by the hotel. Don't remember him getting out or anything because it was like a rush because he was trying to get to the house. It was a little, rush. We always behind running late, but he didn't get out and come in the hotel and walk around and mingle. Question: would you describe this night as being organized or unorganized?
Answer. Well, my side, I was the logistics guy. So I guess it would be my fault, but we were kind of an unorganized crew. Oh, yeah. It's definitely your fault. Question. Was it your intention to go to the fight that night? Answer. Initially, yes, sir. Question. What happened? Were you able to go to the fight? Answer. I didn't go because of issues at the club, of course, and us being unorganized, where to even the fact that Mr. Shakur called me looking for Mr. Knight, as everyone always did, and pretty much informed me that he's tired of going to the fight late because Mike Tyson fights usually be over back then in the first round. And that even Mr. Shakur, his music, he had rapped a song for him to enter the ring in and wanted to be there for that. And he and his security caught a cab over to the fight. Question. So Mr. Shakur took a cab to the MGM Grand for the fight? Answer. Yes, sir, from the Luxor. Question. You mean his security? Do you recall who his security was then? Answer. Yes, sir. Question. Who was that? Answer. His name was Frank Alexander. Question. All right. So the same person you had talked about earlier. Answer. At the Soul Train? Yes, sir. Question. Yes. Okay. So when Mr. Shakur and Mr. Alexander are off to the MGM Grand, do you ever make it to the MGM Grand at all? Answer. I went by there, saw that parking, and we had little Nextel walkie-talkies, and I was getting a lot of feedback and issues with my security. And I just elected to go to the club to make sure everything was in order at the club. Question. Is it fair to say your focus of this weekend was executing the club going off well? Answer. Yes, sir. So this mother security guard wants us to believe that Suge Knight would have him taking care and doing this liquor license deal and focusing on the deal when his job is security. Not being Suge is out. Death Row's cracking. Why would he need you to do any of that? This shit is very revealing, man. Question. And were you aware of whether or not there was supposed to be a performance at the club that night? Answer. Yes, sir. Question. Who was supposed to perform that night at the club? Answer. Well, I know an artist that we had just signed from Bad Boy Records. We had started up a Death Row East. His name was Craig Mack. He was going to perform there. But Mr. Shakur, who unintelligible, the guy worked out because he had done some community service that was needed. We were doing some community service where they were donating some of the proceeds to this boxer foundation for the Las Vegas Police Department. And so Mr. Shakur was going to be the one to perform, right? So Pac is performing because they're donating some of it to this foundation in Vegas for the Vegas Police Department. This is part of his community service, right? Question. Okay, all right. And so that night you spent most of the evening at Club 662 while Mr. Shakur and Mr. Knight and some of his entourage are at the MGM. Answer. Yes, sir. Question. So you don't see the fight? You don't go in at all? Answer. Yes, correct. Question. So while you're working on logistics at Club 662, how is that going as the evening progresses? Answer. I was kind of proud of it finally working the way it was supposed to work the club, as far as the crowd control outside, because we had contracted Las Vegas Police Department. I don't know if it was on duty or off duty, They contract the Las Vegas Police Department. Maybe they had inside man have those police caught up at 662. Oh, this is bad. Okay, but they were in uniform to control the parking lot and the crowd control from the back door on. And then my security had it from the inside of the door on. And it was very organized. Metro Police did a good job that night. Question.
At some point, did you see people come to you and say, hey, something has casually gone wrong that night? Answer, yeah. Question, can you tell us about that? Answer, don't know the approximate time. I guess it's like 11 o'clock, 11 or something, where two gentlemen that we talked about earlier, Roger Williams, a.k.a. Neckbone, and Alton McDonald, a.k.a. Buntry, like country, but with a B, came inside of the club, and they was like, Reggie, Suge and Pac just got shot down the street. I initially thinking they tripping because I wasn't with them, and Suge told you all to come here and tell me that. And they were like, no, we're serious. By this time, Mr. Khaleesi's was near me, George Khaleesi's, the attorney. He kind of confirmed it to me like, yeah. And I'm like, also seeing a few of the Las Vegas police that was working the door or working, the parking lot, or maybe visiting the guys that were working. I don't know, but they leaving with lights and sirens on going toward that area. So I kind of knew at that time. Question. So answer that it was true. Question. So prior to hearing from Buntry and Neckbone that Suge and Tupac had been shot, had you heard anything about a fight at the MGM or Southside, an issue with the Southside Crips at all? Answer, nothing. That's the only problem I have with my security. Mr. Alexander, that he didn't notify me when it transpired. But he said his walkie-talkie, because we had Nextels back then where they could operate like two-way radios, they had a dual, it could be a phone or it could be a walkie-talkie. He didn't notify me, but that was his first day back from being off for like a month. And he said his walkie-talkie hadn't gotten his walkie-talkie or it was dead, something like that. But no one had told me what happened, which, to be honest, a fight, it was kind of common. Question. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was going to, a follow-up question was, working for doing security for Death Row Records by this time for about a year and a half, and having moonlit for years before that. Were fights common or uncommon? Answer, kind of common. Question, was it something that you would have been overly concerned about if you had heard that there was a fight? Answer, if it would have been explained to me in the magnitude it was, yes. But just that, hey, they got into a fight with some guys at the MGM? No. Question, so you're talking about the magnitude of who it was. Did you later come to learn that the person the fight was with Orlando Anderson? Answer, yes, sir. Question, and at that time, were you aware that Mr. Anderson was a member of the Southside Crips? Answer, yes, sir. Question, and what did that give you concern? Somebody who knew gangs from growing up in Compton, gangs from patrol, gangs from just working with Death Row, would it have given you some concern that there was an altercation with a significant member of the Southside Crips? Answer, yes, sir. Question, now when Buntry and Neckbone came out there, did you ever see their car? Answer, yes, sir. Question, did you notice anything different about their car from when you last saw it? Answer, yes, sir. Question, what did you notice? Answer, that there was a bullet hole in the left fender of his black Toyota Supra. Question, and prior to that incident, or prior to seeing it that night, had you ever noticed that bullet hole before? Answer, no, sir. Question, and was it your knowledge that it was common practice for guys from the neighborhood, gang members, to immediately fix bullet holes in their vehicles? Answer, you don't drive around with a car that has bullet holes in it. Mainly not so much for the embarrassment of having a gunshot, but because the police generally harass you a little more, because generally they believe, and I believe when I was a police officer, someone had just recently been shot at and they carry a gun to protect themselves because, one, they either have issues with somebody, or two, maybe in fear of, I'd rather be judged than carried. Question, so we had talked about at the beginning of this that your father, Reggie Wright Sr., was a lieutenant in the gang unit right around
this time. Is that fair to say? Answer, he was. Question, so was he in Vegas or was he in Compton during this time, during the night of the shooting? Answer, no, he was in Compton. Well, I guess he was at home. So he's saying that that's not his dad on that camera. Crazy. Question, you don't know, but to your knowledge, he definitely wasn't in Vegas. Answer, he wasn't in Vegas, no. Question, did you go after the shooting? Did you ultimately make your way down to UMC? Answer, yes, sir. Question, did you drive there or did someone else drive you there? Answer, no, Mr. Khaleesi's the attorney, George, because I didn't know my way around Vegas like that, but he drove me to the hospital. And during this time, do you see Mr. Knight? Answer, yes. About 2 hours probably after the shooting, I seen him in the emergency room at the hospital. Question, it's fair to say that he survived that shooting? Answer, yes, sir. Question, to your recollection, did he stay there for a few days or was he released that night? Answer, no, he left. I left prior to him getting released, but I was back at his house about 7 in the morning and he was there. Question, and Mr. Shakur, was he still in the hospital? Answer, yes, sir. Question, were there a lot of friends, associates, and people who were actually at the incident gathering at the hospital while Mr. Shakur was being treated? Answer, yes, definitely later, not initially upon my arrival, but during that night, yes, sir. Question, and were they upset? Answer, very. Question, were they emotional? Answer, very. Question, would it be fair to say or unfair to say that they were under the distress of what they had just experienced? Mr. Shakur getting shot at? Answer, I guess they would be, yes, that's fair. Question, did you talk to any of these people about what happened? Without getting into the details of what they said, did you talk to them? Answer, I mean, people were, the tension was up there. The artists, the people, not the guys, meaning the homeboys, maybe talk to them a little later. It was mainly like the people from the club that heard about it and started filtering themselves over, which would have been people that didn't have too much, question. But did you talk to some of the homeboys and some of the artists about what had gone on? Answer, yeah. Question, and as a result of talking to the homeboys and the artists about what went on, did you call your father? Answer, yes. And why would you call your father? Answer, well, initially I called him just to tell him, hey, Tupac and Suge just were shot. Now I know probably later, and I'm sure I was calling and talking to him all that night, but I do remember relaying something to him. So you don't know why you called your father after this happened, but you're sure that you were calling and talking to him all that night. But I do remember relaying something to him. So you let him know about them being shot, let them know it was a successful hit, that they both were hit, and you went to the hospital, you checked on them, and you let them know what their status was. That Suge was still there. You left before him because he was still alive, right? And Pac was still alive and was to die, I think, on the 6th day. Question, and like later that night, meaning, like around 3, 4, 5, 6, sometime that evening, did you feel the need to relay information to your father? Answer, yeah, because I had learned that it was regarding an incident that happened at the MGM and that it had something to do with some gentlemen from the Southside Compton Crips. And I knew the gentlemen from the neighborhood that were associated with us. The Ma Parus and the Ludus Park were very upset about it. Question, were you concerned that there would be subsequent violence in Compton as a result of what happened in Las Vegas? Answer, yes, sir. Question,
And contacting your father, who was the lieutenant of the gang unit, seemed like information he should know? Answer, yes, sir. Question, all right. Of course, in the 27 years since the shooting on September 6th of 1996, there have been all sorts of theories who was responsible for shooting Mr. Tupac Shakur. You're aware of that, right? Answer, yes, sir. Question, in fact, you're aware of one particular theory that you yourself are responsible for the shooting of Mr. Shakur. Isn't that right? Answer, yes, sir. So, Reggie, how are you going to get mad that it's public knowledge that you're a suspect in the Tupac murder? But here you is on the grand jury in the Keefe D trial as a witness. Kind of self-serving. Look kind of guilty from this angle. I'm just saying, my nigga, it's common knowledge. There's a strong theory and a large percentage of us that believes you and them crooked pigs was responsible for the unaliving and you orchestrated it. Allegedly. That's just what a lot of people believe. You know what I'm saying? Veggies got bodies. Allegedly, is what everybody is saying. So, okay, I have to ask you, are you responsible in any way for the shooting and killing of Mr. Shakur? Answer, no, sir. Question, finally, is it true that in 2017, you were convicted of a felony sales of marijuana? Answer, yes, sir. Question, and was there another felony as well that you were convicted of? Answer, money laundering associated to the sales of the marijuana. Wait a minute. Reg, you always lied to me and just said all you got was the weed. And I said, no, you got the money laundering too. You told me I was lying. Hold on. Hold on. So for money laundering, all right, so let's see what they say. Yeah, you could get up to 20 years for money laundering. 18 USC 1956 and 1957 being central to these charges, violations of Section 1956, which prohibits engaging in financial transactions with the proceeds of unlawful activity, can result in imprisonment for up to 20 years. Additionally, fines can reach up to $500,000 or twice the value of the monetary instruments involved, whichever amount is the greater. So, and then it says a related statute, Section 1957, addresses engaging in monetary transactions exceeding $10,000 in criminally derived property. Convictions under the section carry a maximum prison sentence of 10 years. So he didn't get the 20, he didn't get the 10. Oh, Reggie. Let us find out you did some telling, Reggie. Well, it doesn't surprise us. I mean, we all know you. You give information, exchange valuable information with the cops. So let's go ahead and go to back to the paperwork. I got the work. Answer, yes, sir. Question, and was there another felony? Oh, he said money laundering associated to the sales of the marijuana. Question, and those were felonies in federal court. Is that fair? Answer, that's correct. Mr. Palau, do any members of the grand jury have any questions for Mr. Wright Jr.? Yes, sir, by a juror. Question, did your security team know that the Southside Crips were here? And if so, do you know why they were here? Answer, to be honest, that night, everybody that thought they had a little bit of money in the urban communities came to Mike to fights from every neighborhood. And to say that they knew that they were here, no, sir. But Mike Tyson fights back then in urban communities were big things. Question. So it's fair to say that they should have assumed that those guys would be there. Answer. That would be correct. But we never thought something like that would happen in Vegas. Question. They didn't ask you that. He always trying to clear something up to push his narrative, defend his position. Why are you defensive when he asks you that question? Adding more than he asked, a denial. Question. And to clear that up a little bit, you had mentioned you were here 3 times before for fights. Is that correct? Answer, that's correct. Question. And when you said people from the neighborhood, fair to say a lot of gang members would come out to Vegas for Tyson fights. Yeah, that's what I mean by urban community areas. So when they say urban community areas, cops like Reggie Wright are talking about gang members. So your community makes you a gang because it's organized, it's structured, right? You guys have unity amongst each other. That's what they label gangs. The fact that we organize ourselves and attach a name is demonized and called a gang. It's a village. It's a tribe. But anyway, the most recent thing that I can compare it to for people, like when you all had an all-star weekend out here, was generally how the Mike Tyson fights worked back then. Question. And so it wouldn't necessarily be surprising to see all sorts of different gang members, both from Paru sets, Blood sets, Crip sets, to be out here for a fight. Answer, that's correct. And even at our club, to be honest, question. And you did not, well, let me ask you this. Did you expect there to be any violence out here just because people from different sets were out here? Answer, not because of anything that was going back in our neighborhood, but question, just a newbie. Answer, yeah. Question, people sometimes will get into arguments out here for all sorts of reasons. Answer, correct. Question, but you didn't think the Compton politics, the gang politics, would make it out to Vegas. Is that fair? Answer, correct. That's correct. By a juror. Question, so there was no rumor. Well, you said you got all these people from LA coming up. There could be trouble. There was no rumor prior to that you know of that something big was going to happen to somebody big? Answer, not, I mean, the rumor of the chain snatching, we knew that there were problems with the Southside Compton Crips, but that's every day, even before the chain snatching, to be honest. Parus and Crips generally. Question, but not like the night of the fight. Something is going to go down. Answer, generally, they will be respectful in clubs unless an incident is really on, or something like that happen. But to see them, we wouldn't have expected it to have been an issue, just like when we saw them at the Soul Train Awards. It wasn't an issue because of Bad Boy. It was because it was the Parus or the South Side that were having a problem. We're 8 miles wide. We go to the same schools, date the same young ladies. We see each other. So he included himself as part of the community, even though he's distinguished himself as law enforcement, right? So retaliation that was expected for the chain attempted snatching, you guys thought at this time that was over, the retaliation was over? Answer, oh, no, sir. Just you talking about from the Lakewood incident until if they would, as they did, if they would have saw them, the person that perpetrated it, there probably would have been an incident, but they didn't expect to see them. it was by coincidence that they did see the gentleman. How do you know it was by coincidence? How do you know that if you believe the theory that Keefe D and Baby Lane and these niggas in the white Cadillac were there by happy chance, coincidence, then why did they bust you in the first place and come get y'all? But anyway, let's get back to it. Well, I just had to wet my whistle. So, but that wasn't the target that night? Answer, that wasn't the target. Mr. Palau, can I clarify? A juror, by Mr. Palau. Question, were you aware whether or not Ma Paru was hunted for Orlando Anderson or other Southside Crips that night? Answer, I don't honestly think Trayvon Lane knew who he was until he saw him at the MGM and say, oh, that's him. There he is. Question. So to your knowledge, Trayvon Lane did not know Orlando Anderson by name? Answer, correct. He just knew, question, by face. Answer, and where they were from. And they generally know that because of their attire. They wear S's on their hats. They wear jerseys and stuff like that. And like I said, we kind of knew each other, but I can't honestly say if Trayvon knew. But I think when he saw Mr. Anderson in the club, he was like shocked and like, hey, there go that guy that tried to take my chain a couple months ago. Question. I think the point is you guys didn't have a plan like, hey, when we go out to Vegas, we're going to find these Southside guys and we're going to get them. Answer, correct. Mr. Palau, yes, sir, by a juror. Question, do you still have your death row pennant? Answer, yes, sir. The foreperson. Any more questions? By law, these proceedings are secret, and you are prohibited from disclosing to anyone anything that transpired before us, including evidence presented to the grand jury. Any event occurring or a statement made in the presence of the grand jury, information obtained by the grand jury. Failure to comply with this admonition is a gross misdemeanor punishable up to 364 days in the Clark County Detention Center and a $2,000 fine. In addition, you may be held in contempt of court punishable by an additional $500 fine and 25 days in the Clark County Detention Center. Do you understand this admonition? The witness, yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry. The foreperson, thank you. You're excused. The witness, thank you. The foreperson, can we speak, please? Mr. Diagamo. Actually, we're going to cut it right now. So just give us 1 second to get them out of the room. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that completes the presentation for today. Enjoy your long weekend, right? And then you got it signed, the affirmation, some more information. Then you got this stuff on the jurors, right? Right. All of this is just the documents that go with it. But that was Reggie Wright Jr. on the stand, part 3, which is the last one we're going to be doing of this series. So we'll close this out. And I want to just break down some of his inconsistencies. You know what I'm saying? You know, one thing about pork, but he throws out and muddies the water so much, right? Okay, so no, that's not the one. So let's go this way. Let's go here. And that's not it. Boom. One more again. Maybe I should edit. No, y'all gonna have to. If I gotta go through it, y'all gotta go through it. Contradictions in grand jury testimony. So let's get this going. Boom. All right. So let me get these. Contradictions between role and claimed ignorance. Right? Wright was head of security for Death Row Records, a role requiring comprehensive knowledge of staff, threats, and logistics. Yet he claimed he never had a serious conversation with Suge Knight about the Tupac shooting. He never heard Suge order violence or retaliation. He didn't know if his own staff had gang affiliations or engaged in criminal conduct. This is not credible for someone responsible for the label's safety during a period of intense conflict, suggesting either willful ignorance or dishonesty. I tend to push that very hardly, that he definitely was responsible for the label's safety, thus making all of these lies and or trying to be held accountable for negligence. His credibility is shot, right? Hospital non-appearance versus security duties. Wright said he didn't go to the hospital after Tupac shooting because Suge didn't want visitors and the place was locked down, given that his client had just been shot in a high-profile drive-by. This contradicts his responsibility as head of security. Failing to respond or at least debrief after such an event undermines the legitimacy of his claimed role. That's a fact. But he said that he did go to the hospital briefly. So you have that inconsistency. Y'all forget he said that he went in there, Suge, he left, but he left before Suge was released. Suge was still alive. He had to get up out of there, regroup, and talk to his handlers. Security presence at events. Wright claimed none of his security team was present at the MGM Grand or Club 662 the night of the shooting. However, surveillance footage and independent reports show Death Row security and affiliates visibly present, especially during the beatdown of Orlando Anderson at the MGM. His denial appears to be a calculated effort to distance himself and his team from involvement in the prelude to Tupac's murder. Denial of knowing Keefe D versus context. Wright insisted he never spoke to Keefe D and only knew of him through media. This is contradicted by their shared circles in Compton, as well as the fact that Keefe D later admitted to his role in the Tupac shooting. For someone as connected as Wright, this claim of total unfamiliarity strains his credibility. Again, I push heavily, his credibility is strained. Poochie's role dismissed despite known ties. Wright described Wardell Poochie Faust as a mere errand boy and claimed no knowledge of his violent activity. However, Poochie has been publicly identified in law enforcement investigations as the alleged shooter of Biggie's murder and a trusted death row enforcer. Wright's minimization contradicts external evidence and widespread reports. Coincidental identification versus group retaliation behavior. Wright states that Orlando Anderson's confrontation was unplanned and happened only because he was spotted wearing an S on his hat. However, the immediate and collective attack by death row affiliates suggests coordination or a standing expectation of retaliation. The notion of it being spontaneous contradicts the behavior of the group and prior attention from the chain snatching incident. Alleged lack of gang oversight versus hiring practices. Wright claimed he didn't vet the gang affiliations of his staff or discipline them for misconduct, yet he hired multiple known Paru members and operated in a climate where gang affiliations were not only relevant, but central to the death row's internal politics. As a former Compton police officer, his denial of knowledge appears disingenuous. So we're going to end that one. And now we're going to go to some of these other ones. You just got to take notes, man. And make sure that y'all paying attention to what we paying attention to. So Wright repeatedly distances himself from the foresight or intent related to gang violence, framing the events as coincidental or spontaneous. However, the specifics he gives, such as immediate recognition, known attire, and a statement that retaliation would have occurred if Orlando had been spotted, suggests foreknowledge or readiness to act violently. His pattern of couching facts and hypotheticals while withholding direct claims appears calculated, very calculated, as if he might have been trained by intelligence agencies. Page 2, Reggie Wright Jr. So on page 2, Reggie Wright Jr. is sworn in. He introduces himself and confirms understanding of the advertisement regarding his testimony, basic credentials on page 3. Wright testified about growing up in Los Angeles and later Compton. He confirms his father, Reginald Wright Sr., was a police officer who eventually led the gang and homicide unit in Compton. Wright also acknowledges that he grew up among gang members, specifically in the Mob Paru and Ludus Park area. Page 4. Wright confirms knowing Marion Suge Knight since childhood and says they were school acquaintances. He recalls playing football with Suge in high school and attending Verbum Day High School before transferring to Linwood. Page 5. He joined the Compton Police Department as a jailer while attending college and eventually becoming a patrol officer in 1990. He names officers in the gang unit, including his father and Tim Brennan. No evasiveness noted here. So they said it was no evasiveness noted here, right? On page page, hold on, I'm on the wrong page. On page 5, no evasiveness was noted on that page. Page 6, Wright discusses moonlighting while off duty, including eventually working for Death Row Records. He says the department had a permit process for side jobs, but enforcement was inconsistent. His explanation of the work permit system lacks detail on whether he complied personally. He glosses over that fact. Why wouldn't he? Page 7. He lists prior moonlighting jobs like nightclubs, hotels, and movie sets, claiming his job was to guard equipment and keep gang members away. His portrayal of gang interactions with production crews seems generalized and lacks concrete incidents, which may suggest minimizing liability. Page 8. Wright described Death Row as a gangster rap label led by Suge Knight. He affirmed familiarity with Suge and says he started working for him around 1994. No deceit is apparent, but he offers little detail on the structure or legality of the security setup. On page 9, I noted that he explained the origin of his work with Suge. His father warned Suge that Suge's own hires might rob him. Wright says he doesn't remember how he got in touch with Suge, which is suspicious given the importance of the meeting. He also admits, yeah, you're definitely going to remember how you got back in contact with him, because this was going to give you your own company and you'll be moonlighting with some of the biggest stars, A-list celebrities in Hollywood, in the United States. Protect him. What, you wouldn't have forgot that. He also admits being attracted to the fame and lifestyle around Suge, which he describes in broad terms. Page 10. Wright recounts the meeting with Suge and his father, where his father refused to work for Death Row, citing open investigations into Suge's associates. Wright, however, got involved through a recommended contact, Lieutenant Danny Sneed, and joined the security company that served Death Row. His narrative sounds sanitized and carefully curated to emphasize professionalism while avoiding culpability. Page 11. Wright admits being attracted to Suge Knight's luxurious lifestyle, including attending the Super Bowl. He confirms his father declined to work for Death Row, citing conflicts due to his active investigations into Suge associates. Wright appears honest here. Page 12. Wright describes his security role as part of Code 4 security and serving as a street supervisor. Let's pause right here. Page 12, when I heard he described his security role as part of Code 4 security, what does Code 4 mean in police talk? I'm not sure. Let me see. But just hearing Code 4, let me see. Code 4. What does Code 4 mean to cops? Code 4. Code 4 typically indicates a situation is under control and no further assistance is needed. So they controlling the situation. Essentially, that's what that was supposed to mean. So let me go ahead and get back to this. So let me blow this up so y'all can see it without straining your eyes. All right, so page 13, after re-injury to his ankle, Wright medically retires from the Compton PD and becomes more involved in death row security. He confirms this transition started around April 1995 and became official by January 1996. Page 14, Wright founded Right Way Protective Services with Death Row Records and his main client. He explains that the company provided security at Death Row's offices, at Death Row studios, and Death Row events. No clear evasiveness was noted on that page. I couldn't see him. See, he comes with so much truth, right? And you'll get caught up in the truth because then he'll start feeding you narratives and twists and turns in the story. So once you get lulled into the truth, like on page 14, you got to be very careful because on page 15, he described various office locations, including the Murdoch Plaza, Larry Flint Building, and 8200 Wilshire. These house PR, art, and admin staff, not artists. This suggests a formal business structure at odds with the gang affiliation claims later, though no direct contradiction yet. So note that. Page 16, Wright says that the Tarzana-based Can-Am studio was the primary music production site and that he provided security there. He names major artists including Snoop Dogg, Calvin Broadus, and Dr. Dre, Andre Young, confirming Dre was also a co-owner of Death Row Records. No deceit noted there. So 16, he tell more truth. Page 17, he admits being with Suge roughly 60% of the time, but not formally serving as his bodyguard. Wright distinguishes himself from Suge's larger entourage. mostly composed of recently released Ma Paru gang members. So now Reggie always try to act and say the homies this and the homies that, but here he is on page 17 trying to build separation between Suge's larger entourage, mostly composed of the convict Ma Paru niggas that just got out. You know what I'm saying? The division between personal and professional roles is somewhat blurred. It's definitely somewhat blurred. On page 18, I noted that Wright confirmed Suge Knight's affiliation with Ma Paru. So he snitched on Suge being a Ma Paru. If Suge wanted that to be known, he could at this stage, then he could have let him know. Mob as members of the Bloods. When asked how a former cop could work closely with gang-affiliated individuals, Wright claims they respected law enforcement back then, an assertion that seems oversimplified and possibly minimize intentions. So, yeah, that was definitely weird, talking about the gangs respecting law enforcement despite what comes out. Man, I don't respect them pigs. Fuck the police. Page 19. He credits his father's community standing and implied authority as reasons why gang members did not challenge them. He also suggests that fear of his father, then a senior gang unit officer, contributed to their deference. This again skirts direct accountability. Page 20. I found that Wright acknowledges a developing rivalry between Death Row and Bad Boy Records. He attributed its origin to a breakdown in what had been a cooperative relationship between Suge and Sean Puffy Combs. This marks the beginning of the East Coast and West Coast narrative. Right. So the beginning of the East Coast and West Coast narrative, the crooked cops and those that were benefiting off of that all started with Reggie Wright. That's what it's saying right there. Wasn't no East Coast. They had Death Row East. It was real niggas and fake niggas, riders and punks. That's what he said. So let's get to this one. Page 21. Wright explained the rivalry escalated after the November 1994 Quad Studio shooting at Tupac Shakur in New York. So he is putting gas on all of this stuff like it's against the whole East Coast, which Tupac blamed on Bad Boy. Wright claims Suge thought Sean Combs was behind Tupac's robbery and that things changed between the camps. Wright does not dispute this belief, but presents it passively, not clarifying Suge's actual knowledge or response. On page 22, I noted that Wright recounts the 1995 Source Awards where Suge made a veiled comment about Puffy. He avoids a direct opinion on whether the comment was provocative. His neutrality seems calculated, considering his position at the time and personal loyalty to Suge. On page 23, I noted, Reggie notes that Orlando Anderson, a Southside Crip, was involved in a 1996 altercation at Lakewood Mall where a Death Row affiliate was robbed of a Death Row medallion. Wright says he learned about it later, suggesting he was not present or directly involved. The timeline of when he learned about the incident is vague and suspect, given his central role. Here goes the orca. Mr. Wright names Trayvon Lane as the victim of the medallion robbery and describes his role at Death Row. Wright indicates this robbery led to growing tension, but he fails to detail any internal Death Row discussion or planning in response, which seems unlikely. On page 25, I noted Wright gives background on Death Row's presence in Las Vegas for the Tyson fight on September 7th, 1996. He confirms he was in Vegas but stayed at a different hotel. This distancing, both physical and narrative, is suspicious, especially since he later discusses Suge's movements in detail. You discussed all the Suge movements in detail, but you were very suspicious about where you were at in Vegas, your movement, etc. Right? Crazy. On page 26, I noted that Wright says he watched the Tyson fight on TV in a different hotel while Suge, Tupac, and others were ringside. He does not explain why he was not with the main group despite being head of security. This separation is unusual and may suggest he is avoiding association with what followed. Page 26. Wright says he only learned of the altercation with Orlando Anderson at the MGM Grand after it happened. He repeats that he wasn't present and gives a third-party account of what happened, again, insulating himself from knowledge or involvement. On page 28, Wright claims he didn't know about the altercation until being told later that night. Wright's repeated denials of firsthand knowledge about a central event involving key death row personnel raised doubts, given his high position and proximity to Suge. If you didn't know these things, why weren't you doing your job? You are not a promoter. This is nasty work, bro. On page 29, I noted that Wright says he went to Club 662 later that night, but didn't see Suge or Tupac there. His testimony continues to distance himself from all major actors and events that night. He doesn't mention who he was with, which weakens the credibility of his account. Page 30. He confirms learning that Tupac had been shot later that night. He does not give details about his reaction, whether he spoke to Suge or what he did afterwards. An odd omission for someone so deeply connected to death row and who is their security. On page 31, I noted that Wright says he found out about the shooting of Tupac when a female associate named Charity, a friend of Suge's, called him. He claimed Suge was crying and unable to explain what happened. His description of how he learned the details is emotionally loaded, yet lacks clarity about his follow-up steps as a security. Of course you're going to take follow-up steps. Of course you're going to note and try to figure out what didn't go right. He never had an inkling to do that, or so he wants us to believe. On page 32, Wright testifies that he didn't know the shooting location initially and had to be told Suge was at University Medical Center. He never addresses why he, as head of security, wasn't involved immediately or in any coordinated response. This continued detachment seems implausible. On page 33, I noted that Wright says he did not go to the hospital that night, claiming Suge did not want visitors. He also says the hospital was on lockdown. Avoiding the hospital altogether after a shooting of your primary client is highly questionable and not explained convincingly. On page 34, I noted that Wright states he did not see Suge until the next day at Club 662. Then says Suge looked dazed and was wearing a bandage. This confirms a face-to-face meeting post-shooting, but Wright doesn't clarify what was discussed. The absence of conversation content is suspicious. On page 35, Wright claims that he never discussed the shooting with Suge in any meaningful way afterward, and that Suge was shut down when asked. This is implausible, especially since Wright was a key figure in the company and in security. Failure to debrief is not credible. Facts. On page 36, I peeped that when asked directly who shot Tupac, Wright says he doesn't know. He adds that there were rumors, but doesn't expand on them. The vagueness and unwillingness to elaborate on widespread industry knowledge reads as avoidance. Page 37. I noted that he confirmed hearing about rumors about Orlando Anderson was involved, but insists he had no firsthand information. He also distances himself from LAPD and Las Vegas investigations. His refusal to mention what he likely knew, even from internal sources, appears calculated. So they're playing to the script that his handlers gave. Page 38. Wright says he cooperated with Las Vegas Police Department, but offers no details on what he told them or whether he was ever considered a suspect or person of interest. This vagueness, again, raises concern. On page 39, he reaffirms that his own security personnel were not present at the MGM Grand or Club 662 that night. This statement contradicts previous information that he ran death row security and suggests a strategic distancing from the actual events. This shit is getting more and more sus, dog. A veggie wrong used a dirty, nasty, slimy pig. Pork butt. Page 40. I noted that Wright claimed he did not speak to Suge again about the shooting and began focusing on his security business and the broader death row fallout. His lack of curiosity or follow-up, given Tupac's prominence and Suge's proximity, is not believable. Page 41. Wright is asked again about his discussions with Suge post-shooting and repeats that Suge didn't want to talk about it. He describes Suge as shutting down emotionally. This portrayal, while consistent with prior claims, still stretches credibility given Wright's security leadership role. On page 42, I noted Wright states that after Tupac's death, things started to unravel at death row. Suge was jailed for a parole violation, and Wright claims he began distancing himself. He does not elaborate on what steps he took or what decisions he made, vague and seemingly designed to deflect responsibility. Page 43. Wright discusses tensions within death row post-shooting, including growing factionalism among Mob Paru members. He acknowledges conflicts but avoids naming specific individuals or actions, which may be deliberate to shield others or himself. Uh-oh. Might be a lot more investigation going in pork butt. So, page 44, Wright describes trying to maintain professional order. But when asked about specific threats of misconduct, he claims not to remember details. This selective amnesia is suspicious, especially for a security leader in a known volatile environment. Page 45, he confirms knowledge of a conflict between Orlando Anderson and death row affiliates. When asked if there was, oh, shoot. Let me pause this real quick. You know what I'm saying? So, page 46, Wright claims he tried to keep things clean and discourage retaliation. However, he fails to name specific steps taken, people warned, or meetings held. The generality of his answer undermines his credibility. Page 47. He is asked about his knowledge of Reggie Wright is asked about his knowledge of who was in the white Cadillac that allegedly pulled up next to Suge's car and shot Tupac. He again pleads ignorance, despite acknowledging industry rumors pointing to specific Crip members. The refusal to acknowledge any insight is highly questionable. On page 48, when asked about Keefe D, Duane Davis, Wright acknowledges hearing his name tied to the Cadillac, but insists he doesn't know if Keefe D was involved. He deflects repeatedly by stating he only heard rumors, never offering more than surface commentary. That's all he's been offering. And they've been accepting it because the police want to spin their narrative. Let's get to page 49. He is questioned on whether he believed Combs, Puffy was involved in the shooting. He says Suge and others did believe that, but he personally had no opinion. Given his access and proximity, this neutrality is almost certainly strategic deflection. Page 50. Wright ends this portion by again minimizing his knowledge of the details, reiterating that his focus was on security, not gang activity. This defense has become a consistent theme, one that seems deliberately used to shield himself from implication. Page 51. Wright is asked whether he ever personally interacted with Keefe D. He says they've never spoken directly, only seen each other. Given the size and overlap between death row and Crip circles at that time, this seems doubtful and may be an intentional minimization. On page 52, Wright continues claiming he knows of Keefe D only by reputation and media stories. Again, this is hard to believe for someone embedded in death row security world during that period. His testimony lacks depth or specificity, particulars. It reads as intentionally vague. On page 53, Wright is asked about Wardell Poochie Faust, a known Mob Paru and Suge associate. He affirmed knowing Poochie but calls him a runner and says he never had real security duties. He does not elaborate on Poochie's criminal activity or later implication in Biggie's murder, which appears to be intentional omission. You said you believe Poochie did him. Why you didn't want to talk about that or dig deep into that? Why did you evade that subject matter, Reggie Wright Jr.? Page 54. I noted that Reggie claims to not know about Poochie's involvement in any violence and says he only knew him as Suge's errand guy. Given that Poochie was widely believed to be deeply involved in death row enforcer work, this answer seems deceptive by omission. Page 55. When asked if he believes Poochie was the shooter in Biggie's murder, Wright defers to Greg Caden's public claims, but does not endorse or deny them. His neutrality again seemed designed to avoid taking a side or offering meaningful information. Page 56. Wright says Suge never discussed Biggie's murder with him. He claims not to know if Suge ordered retaliation. As head of security, it strains credibility that he wouldn't know anything about the biggest murder case affecting their label. Page 57, Wright suggests the LAPD's investigation was flawed and that they missed leads. However, when asked for specific, he demurs, offering generalities about police dysfunction without pointing to errors. This tactic shift focus from Suge or death row without offering substance. Right? On page 58, Wright denies knowing anything about the planning or logistics of Biggie's shooting. He continues emphasizing that his role was only security, not involved in artist decisions or gang-related retaliation. The repetition of this defense suggests coach testimony. Yeah, I say so for sure, bro. What y'all say in the chat? Let me know if y'all agree with my position, man. Wright is questioned about rumors that he cooperated with the FBI. He admits speaking with them, but only to deny wrongdoings. He frames his interactions as protective rather than informative, distancing himself from being an informant or insider. Yeah. We always see him doing that. I don't know if y'all catch it when I'm talking to him, but that's one of his regular tactics, trying to distance himself from being an informant as if it's a difference. The biggest hypocritical positions he's ever taken, man. I ever seen anyone take, right? On page 60, Reggie Wright Jr. insists he never provided law enforcement with inside information on Suge, Ma Paru, or others at death row. His emphasis on loyalty and refusal to disclose any wrongdoing or name reinforces the impression that he is withholding damaging details. Page 61. Wright is asked about others who may have been involved in retaliation following Tupac's death. He claims ignorance, stating that he was focusing on securing business and contracts. The continued disinterest in events impacting his entire client base is questionable. Y'all tell me what y'all thinking at this point about Veggie wrong, Veggie wrong, Veggie wrong, Veggie wrong. You know what I mean? So, all right, let me fix this real quick. I gotta hook my phone up. I'm not getting no all right, so we'll get back to the content. Finna knock this out for real, for real. So, on page 62, Wright Jr. acknowledges being aware of growing tensions between the Bloods and Crips, but insists he stayed out of it. He doesn't address how much violence might have impacted his work or safety planning, which seems implausible. On page 63, when asked whether Suge ever ordered violence, Wright responds that he never heard Suge give direct orders. He again leans on rumors, but claims to never have had firsthand knowledge. This repeated denial undercuts his credibility due to his proximity. On page 64, Wright admits that people may have done things in Suge's name, but he distances Suge from giving explicit instructions. This passive framing shifts blame onto unnamed actors and again avoids implicating Suge directly. Page 65. Wright is asked about hiring practices for security staff. Wright admits many came from gang backgrounds, but insists they were reliable. He fails to address how these affiliations may have contributed to ongoing criminal activity. Page 66. Wright denies that any security staff were armed at official events, though he vaguely acknowledges they may have carried weapons off duty. This is likely deceptive, given known instances of armed confrontations involving death row affiliates. On page 67, Wright is asked about affiliations within his staff. Wright avoids giving specific names or gang ties, saying only that he didn't ask. This is implausible for a security boss hiring within a highly charged gang environment. Page 68. Wright states that no one was ever terminated for misconduct related to gang violence, claiming that wasn't part of his responsibilities. This response deflects accountability and seems engineered to avoid implicating himself in negligence. On page 69, Wright denies knowledge of staff engaging in criminal behavior while employed. Despite numerous reports of such conduct, his sweeping denial appears intentionally misleading, given the violent reputation of death row's entourage. Page 70. Wright concludes this portion of testimony by stating he left the industry after Suge went to prison. He frames his role as administrative and security only, again downplaying any deeper involvement or knowledge of criminal activity. The testimony ends with a carefully maintained image of distance and denial. Page 71. Wright acknowledges that although Compton gang politics were intense, they didn't expect it to escalate in Las Vegas. He admits there was tensions between Pirus and Southside Crips due to a prior chain snatching incident involving Trayvon Lane, but claims they didn't anticipate anything major that night. His statement about how generally they will be respectful in clubs sounds speculative and minimizes the risk they knew existed. He fails to address the strategic risk of known rival gangs attending the same high-profile event. Page 72, Wright says retaliation for the chain snatching was not anticipated that night because they didn't expect to run into the perpetrator, Orlando Anderson. He admits that had they seen him, something probably would have happened, which subtly confirms they were predisposed to violence and for confrontation arose. He again states that Anderson wasn't specifically targeted in advance. However, this seems contradicted by the ease with which the group mobilized once Anderson was seen, raising doubts about Wright's claims of coincidence. I said that when I was reading. Page 73. He states Trayvon Lane recognized Anderson only by face and attire, not by name. Wright emphasizes that there were no premeditated plan to retaliate in Vegas. However, the quick escalation and the way Wright justifies identification based on S's on hats and jerseys implies the group was hyper aware of their rivals and on alert, which undercuts the narrative that the incident was unplanned. So we're going to close this one up. And we're going to pull up the last. We're going to pull up the last. Let me see where we was at. Boom. Oh, yeah. All right, boom. So I think that's pretty much it. I was just making sure that I went over all of my notes. Yeah. So there you have it. Yeah, there you have it. That's pretty much it. We had to break this shit down. The contradictions in Veggie Wong's grand jury hearing. I know that I'm blowed, dehydrated. It was a lot of reading. Thank y'all for sticking with me through all of that reading. Hour and 20 minutes. We're going to get this out to y'all, and then we'll be going live tonight. Turn on those notifications. Hit that like button. Show a little bit of respect. Take them chucks off at the front door, my nigga. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you ain't did that. Go to the Patreon for all of the exclusive Active Chucks Patreon for all the exclusive content that we can't put on YouTube because they'll get us. They're already trying to get us. Hey, we out of here. Salute ETE.
edified through entertainment. Hashtag expose the exposers. Duse M's the dime. Damu Kiwe. Conversations. We out. Hey, look, that's it. Salute to everybody that tapped in, man. Appreciate the support. I know the premiere was supposed to release. Oh, no, let me stop this. So I know everybody was a lot of y'all was over there on the premiere instead of live. The premiere was supposed to came out at 8:00, an hour before we went live. It didn't go how it was supposed to. We still made it, man. Thanks everybody for the support. Let's see what they doing. Okay, that's good enough. Boom, boom. Hey, salute to everybody, man. We gone. Damu Kiwe conversation.